Good evening. Welcome to Varsity Sports Live. Tom Nieman along with Jason Andera. It is semifinal night in high school football in South Dakota. We've got North Dakota. The big schools played their semifinals tonight. They've got some other playoffs coming up this weekend, but we'll get to Jody Norstedt for that in North Dakota here in a few minutes. But South Dakota tonight, big school semis are always exciting. Huron is going to the Dome in 11 AA. Del Rapids is going to the Dome in 11A.
You told me that 2 weeks ago, I would have said you're crazy. I think half the town of Del Rapids would have told you you're crazy. I mean, you can't predict this stuff, or maybe some people can, but I can.
Do some people try?
Yeah, some people do try.
How'd you do tonight?
Yeah, I ripped my sheet up. I mean, it's ridiculous. I got a couple right.
All right, let's start with 11 AAA in South Dakota. In Sioux Falls, Washington, Sioux Falls, Roosevelt. The thing to remember here, Jandy, is that Roosevelt beat Washington 29-0 in the regular season, but that was 9 weeks ago. So, Devlin McManus has done that all season, an interception for Roosevelt. And they got Jake Johansson a couple times early, but doing the two-quarterback thing here with Roosevelt, Jandy. You got Brady Dannenbrink, goes to Tyler Feldkamp. Nice catch, keeps that going. And Roosevelt gets in the lead on an Aaron Kusler touchdown run.
Yeah, Aaron Kusler will come in near the goal line in that Wildcat and brings a different dimension to the team and got him up early.
So Roosevelt's ahead. Tupac, though, with the spin and goes 20 yards to tie it at 7-7. And Washington kind of settled in after being down early. 4th and 15, I believe, is the situation right here. And Johansson goes to Jed Anderson for a touchdown. It's 15-7, Washington at halftime.
Look at the time that Johansson has. They max protected him. Last time they played Roosevelt, they were in his face all game, but he had time to throw, and Tupac got his second touchdown.
Third quarter, they got the game, running game going again, 22-7. Washington in the lead. Riders not done yet, though. They got a big stop on 4th down. Brady Dannenbrink back in there at quarterback, touchdown to make it 22-14.
I love it when to watch him run the ball. He can run the football.
But about 3 minutes left here, and Washington puts it away with Tupac Gapea. Goes 30 yards on this one, Jandy. And Washington will avenge that loss to Roosevelt earlier in the season with a 28-14 win here in the state semifinals. So Washington gets to 9-2, and Roosevelt ends up 8-3 on the season.
This is a rare case where both teams were kind of looking for revenge. You had Washington looking for revenge from the regular season. You had the Roosevelt looking for revenge from last year's playoff game, which was the title game.
State finals last year, Washington beat Roosevelt 20-19 in the championship last year.
But they're unbeatable in the playoffs, and the Warriors got it done.
All right, so the Washington is in, and the other semifinal tonight was at
I think we got some posts
Field.
first.
Before we do that, let's hear from the Warriors.
Our guys know what to expect, and we always tell them, so what, you're down a touchdown. You got to score anyway to tie it up anyway, so get back to work. And I think our defense did a great job tonight when we needed them to step up. And our goal was to hold them to 14 points, and hopefully we could get 21. That was our goal coming in as a coaching staff, and we did it.
I mean, we knew they were going to blitz us a lot, and we were prepared for that. We had a lot of different things planned for that, and we executed it well.
We already know they're going to do something. We just had to come back on fire, and our coach kept telling us we need to push it. We need to push them to the limit, and that's what we did, and they were getting tired. They're great. They're a great team. They have a great defense, and we're just pushing them to the limit.
Took them to the limit.
Riders' defense was really good, though, and in that game earlier in the year, way back early in the year, they did blitz a lot, as Jaden Johansson said, disrupted Washington on that offensive line and beat them 29-0, but different story tonight.
Totally the case. When Roosevelt can get pressure on the quarterback, it changes the whole game. It makes their defensive backfield much better. We know their linebackers are outstanding. But tonight, Washington went into max protect situations, and they held the Riders at bay as far as their blitz goes and got just enough going to get Tupac 3 touchdowns, and don't count out the Warriors.
Riders got it back to 22-14, but Washington over Roosevelt tonight 28-14. So Washington going back to the Dome, and we'll talk about what they've done there here in a minute. All right, now to Brandon Valley and O'Gorman at McEnany Field in Sioux Falls. And Brandon Valley got a pick 6 early on to take the lead. Thomas Skolton to tie McCann there, And then Tate Johnson, a touchdown, and it's 14-0 early.
Yeah, I showed up late. I showed up 2 plays late, missed the pick six. They scored right away, and then in the second quarter got things going with an Andrew Hansen exclamation point. Before you knew it, it was 22-0. Brandon Valley taking charge.
All right, Brandon Valley, of course, knocked off O'Gorman in their last game of the regular season. It was the first loss for O'Gorman. 22-0 at halftime, and then Jesse Steffel goes 57 yards.
This man was tired. He was playing both sides of the football, long runs on offense, doing a great job on defense. This game was put away, it felt like, but O'Gorman said, hey, not so fast.
29-0 in the third quarter. George Schwabach on a fumble recovery right there for the Knights, and then Zach Norton. They got a little offense going in the second half.
Yeah, they finally got some first downs and marched down the field a little bit, but give credit to that Brandon Valley defense. They were tough. Norton didn't have many opportunities like this to make completions. Got Jacob Bird in the open field and then caps it off with a touchdown here. But overall, it was tough sledding for this O'Gorman offense.
We get the 2-point conversion after that score by Norton to make it 29-15. That is the final. Brandon Valley builds that 29-0 lead, and they win it again. Back-to-back wins against the Knights, and O'Gorman is now 9-2, and they're done.
They're done. They lost to Brandon twice, 40-15 the first time around, 29-15 this time. It felt like they didn't have the size to move Brandon Valley out of the way, and that Brandon Valley defense didn't need to blitz and was pressuring the quarterback.
And that is a sophomore right there. Jackson Hilton had that first interception, returned for a touchdown to get Brandon Valley out to that early lead. So the Lynx are going to the Dakota Dome, and here is some post-game reaction from Brandon Valley.
I mean, they're a great defense, too. I mean, they shut our run game down. We got the one long one from Jesse, and we got some things when we needed them. And then we just kind of held on. But our defense, all the turnovers and stuff is just solid.
It means everything, man. We've lost twice in the Dome to Washington, and I'm ready to play. I'm ready to go. I want to play like right now. If I could play tomorrow, I would.
I mean, we're happy to take anyone in the Dome, but Washington, we'll bring it to them. We'll give it our all there, and we're just trying to get a state champs here.
Oh, it's going to be so good. They played 2 years ago in 2016, and it was a good game. Washington beat Brandon Valley 41-31 2 years ago, but Washington has won 3 straight championships, going for their 4th.
And now 8 games in a row. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But now they've won 8 games in a row after a 1-2 start. Washington is playing great. Brandon Valley, after a little bit of a rough start for them, they are totally on a roll right now. I really feel like we have the 2 best teams in the state heading to the Dome.
Both teams are 9-2. They did play in the first game of the regular season, and Washington beat Brandon Valley 28-14 in the first game.
I asked Chad Garrow after the game, what does that mean? And he goes, that was a whole different team. That was a whole different team, long time ago.
About 2.5 months ago. But, all right, Washington and Brandon Valley, that is the last game on Saturday, the only game on Saturday. It's the 7:30 game at the Dakota Dome coming up next weekend. All right, Jandy.
Exciting.
We've got Huron and Yankton, and look at this. The Huron Tigers are going to the Dakota Dome to play. I think the last time they were there was 1992, I think is what I looked up, their championship when they beat Watertown in 1992. But
26
Huron going back. This game, we'll have some highlights coming up in a little bit, but they literally traded scores all the way through this game. Huron went ahead, Yankton went ahead, and they kept going back and forth. You see the numbers. Chipper Schillingstead had 3 touchdowns on the ground. Ethan Wishon to Michael Drotzman for a couple of scores for Yankton, but 28-23 the final.
Yeah, to me, that was one of the keys of the game. Chipper Schillingstead, back and healthy, has been missed part of the second half of the season, but he adds an element offensively that they hadn't had before. So big game for Huron. Yes, we will get you some highlights of those coming up soon.
All right, so the Tigers going up against Pierre, and Pierre beat Brookings tonight 40-7 was the final in the other 11 AA semifinal. McGuire Rasky with a touchdown, Garrett Stout with a couple of touchdowns you see there.
231 yards rushing.
Yeah, they blocked a punt for a score, and Pierre is going back. They're the defending champions in 11 AA. Beat Huron during the regular season 34-7 in Pierre. But it'll be the Governors and the Huron Tigers in the 11 AA championship.
Yeah, I mean, not the pairing I was expecting, that's for sure. But this Pierre team is the one team that feels like they're a notch above the rest of this class. But after watching these playoffs, I mean, anything could happen, anything.
Pierre got by Spearfish pretty handily in the first round, and they get by Brookings 40-7 here. Pierre and Huron in the 11 AA state championship. And again, we'll take a look at those Huron-Yankton highlights coming up a little later in the show. In 11A, Jason, West Central and T area. T at 9-1. Their only loss to Madison this year. And these guys played a good game during the regular season, but it was too much T here at the time of possession, heavily in T's favor. Jackson Miller, though, with a sack there for West Central. There was no scoring until
defense was the name of the game.
27 seconds left in the half, and Hunter West to Wyatt Van Tol for a touchdown. 7-0 at halftime.
Hunter West, by the way, banged up a little bit, was playing hurt. But you're right, defense was the name of this game in the first half, and then T gets a big turnover to capitalize and start this avalanche.
Carter Slykehouse on the fumble there for the Titans, and then Slykehouse takes it in for the touchdown, and it's 14-0 Titans. And then Hunter West goes about 25 yards here to set up another score.
He ran for 90 positive yards, had some negative yards in there as well, but you can see how slow he got up. He was not feeling 100% and still was able to grind out yards on the ground and in the air. They didn't take him out late in the game. Hopefully he's okay for next week.
But they got West, they got Clayberg, they got Slykehouse, they got Wyatt Van Tol.
Oh yeah, big night.
Who had 20 carries, 96 yards, and the touchdown right there for Wyatt Van Tol. And then when it was 21-0, the insult to injury here is Van Tol with a pick six going back the other way, and T area will get their 10th win of the season, Jason. Big night for Wyatt Van Tol, and the Titans win this one by a final of 28-0. So T is 10-1. West Central gets to the semis. They finished the year 6-5, but T area is on a run right now.
Before we kind of accent what T area did, how about West Central? Last year didn't make the playoffs. This year made that semifinal run. This is probably Kent Mueller's last go around with the team. Congratulations to him and everything he means to the history of West Central. But you're right, tonight was T's night.
T area has had 3-4 really good years in a row here. They are 10-1 going to the 11A championship. And let's hear from the Titans after the win tonight.
Last game I hurt my left ankle. In this game, sadly I rolled my right ankle, but I'll be fine. I'll be back, and Austin Lake did a good job filling in, and I'm just proud we're going back to the Dome.
I mean, sometimes against these tougher teams, you just got to put your shoulder down, and it's just about running hard, and that's what we had to do. I mean, same goal next week. We just got to go there, and we got to play as hard as we can, and hopefully the outcome comes the same as this game.
I mean, they were bringing a lot of guys first half. I think we figured it out a little bit. Guys played well. We didn't really change much. Just ran some different sets, different action, and they're a great team, good, well-coached team. Coach Mueller does a great job over there, and we're fortunate to come out on top, and it's a nice feeling.
All right, Jandy, T area. We get to see T in the summer in the 7-on-7 things with the Riggs Combine and the Riggs Camp out at the Sanford complex out there. And you get to see Slykehouse and talk to some of these guys, and you wonder how good they're going to be, and here they are, ended up in the Dakota.
Yeah, and starting out the season, they played West Central to a 6-point game, and I wasn't expecting West Central to maybe be a Final Four team, so I was wondering, maybe, was T on the right track? Then they played a magnificent regular season, gave a lot of credit to their defense, and their playmakers came out, and Hunter West gutted this one out, and he says he's going to be ready next week. I believe him, but 2 ankles, that's tough.
All right, so T area is moving on. Madison is the defending champion in this class in 11A, but Del Rapids beat them 14-13 in the previous round, and it was Del Rapids and Dakota Valley tonight, Jandy. And Dakota Valley 9-1 coming into this game. Their only loss was to T area, but that is Logan Ellingson for Del Rapids, and he did everything for them tonight. Had the interception there. Didn't get to do much with that. Del Rapids did. They couldn't punch it in. Sam Chesterman with a touchdown here to put Dakota Valley in the lead 7-0.
Yeah, they never got a huge lead, but they did get a little. But look at this. Ensuing kickoff, you called it, Logan Ellingson. He got it going for the Warriors.
That was a tough run. They got a couple of pieces of him, but Ellingson takes that all the way back for the score. Dells had the lead. Dells led 13-7 at halftime, Jandy. And then we get into the third quarter. It's Sam Chesterman again. And Dakota Valley will go back in front. And then Ellingson with another score there. Dells goes up 19-14. Dakota Valley went back in front 22-19 early in the fourth quarter. Dells with a touchdown with about 7.5 minutes left. And in a bit of a shocker, it is Del Rapids on top of Dakota Valley tonight. by a final of 25-22. There is one of those late Dakota Valley scores, but the final, the Warriors win it 25-22. Dells is 7-4 now and going back to the championship.
Let's give Dell Rapids some credit for tackling Nate Rice and Sam Chesterman, something that most teams in this class were not able to do. Yes, Chesterman did come up with 178 yards and 3 touchdowns, but remember last week, Nate Rice ran for almost 300 yards by himself. They contained him, and they made the big plays on special teams and defense, and that's what you get. You get a W, and not many people believing in the Warriors, but they believed in themselves.
All right, another good year for Dakota Valley. Dakota Valley went to the championship last year, lost
did.
to Madison, but Dell Rapids is going this year. Dells won in 2014. They won 3 in a row from 2010 to 2012. That goes back to the Langer days and the Barbers and those guys. But Dell Rapids, big surprise or not?
A big surprise. They had a new coach this year. Jordan Huska took over for Steve Hansen, who had won a lot of those titles. They were totally in rebuilding mode this year. Just ask them. The whole town told me they were in rebuilding mode. And they lost their best running back, Nick Baver, just a couple weeks ago, and just picked up Eddie Price has done a great job at quarterback, and you saw what Logan Ellingson did for the spark on offense. Unbelievable what Dell Rapids has done. The biggest shocker of the night for me was, there's a couple of them.
Yeah, there's a few.
There's a couple of them, but this was one of the biggest.
All right, so it's T-Area and Dell Rapids in the 11A championship game. It will be the last game, the late game on Thursday. Championships next week go Thursday, Friday, Saturday. This will be the 7:30 game on Thursday with T-Area and Dell Rapids. T killed them during the regular season, so we'll see what happens. It was 56-6 T over Dells in the regular season, but Dells has been obviously surprising here in the last couple of weeks. All right, when we come back, we'll get to 11B and the 9-man semifinals tonight in South Dakota when we return on Varsity Sports Live.
Varsity Sports Live on Midco Sports Network is presented by Avera Orthopedics, Farmers Union Insurance Agency, South Dakota State University, and Farmers Union Insurance.
Welcome back to Varsity Sports Live. Rolling through the Sioux Falls semifinals tonight. Championship games coming up in the Dakota Dome in Vermilion next weekend. Jandy, let's get to 11B, and we've got some highlights coming up in this game between Sioux Falls Christian and Canton. But you see the final here as Christian, the defending champions, in 11B. Jandy, they get to 9-2 with the 38-20 win tonight. This is the first loss of the season for Canton.
Just when I finally give up on the Sioux Falls Christian Chargers, by the way, we've had Knights on there for a couple of weeks, and I heard from somebody, they are the Chargers, we know, but as soon as I give up on them, that's when they start winning. So,
Why would you give up on them?
Well, look what they've done the last couple of weeks. They've scared me. They almost lost. They had to come back to win 2 weeks in a row. Beersford, winner, and now they take care of the business against the #1 team.
They had lost to Canton during the regular season. Their 2 losses were to Canton and T.
Right.
But they knock off Canton tonight, 38-20. Parker Nelson, you see the numbers for him there: 3 rushing touchdowns. Mulder on the ground with a couple more.
I was just going to say, plus Jake Pettengill, their coach, loves when I pick against him. I think he uses it in his speeches.
So it seems to be a theme this year.
Theme.
All right, we'll get some highlights, we think, coming up from Canton and Sioux Falls Christian. And the other score in 11B tonight, Jandy, was Bridgewater Emory-Ethan over Mount Vernon Plankinton, 41-6. It was 35-0 at halftime. Brady Hawkins, a big night again. Jamin Aaron had a touchdown run in there, a couple of receiving touchdowns for Sawyer Schultz. And Bridgewater Emory-Ethan is 10-1.
Nice little element they added this year with Sawyer Schultz, by the way. Defensively, he's getting picks all the time. Offensively, catching touchdowns. Nice to have a guy like that who can go make plays in the passing game.
Mount Vernon Plankinton had 6 turnovers, and Bridgewater Emory-Ethan just took control, 41-6 in this one. So it is Bridgewater Emory-Ethan taking on Sioux Falls Christian, and they played in the state championship game last year. Sioux Falls Christian won it 27-12.
And that was a good game. That was a good game. And both teams bring a lot of talent back who were in that game. And trust me, they remember. They remember each other.
All right. Sioux Falls Christian, Bridgewater Emory-Ethan in 11B. 9AA, before we get to the highlights, well, let's go to them. Bonham and Woolsey-Wessington. We'll talk about this in a minute. But Bonham, 9-1 coming into this one. Woolsey-Wessington undefeated at 10-0. And Bonham, Christian Euchre with a touchdown.
Eaker.
makes it 8-0. Joey Slama had a huge game for Bonham.
This guy's a stud athlete. He makes everything go, and as you can see, he can not only throw the ball, he can catch the ball, he can run the ball, he can play defense. I think he had 10 tackles tonight. Really an all-around playmaker.
Is Josh Crownover with a touchdown there to Slama, who had 3 touchdowns in the first half. It was 29-0. Slama there with a strip tackle going the other way. Wolsey Wessington could not get much going. They did get a Lyndon Williams touchdown in the second half, but Slama with the throw here to Nate Shazinski, who takes it in for a touchdown.
Big game last week for Shazinski as well against Gregory. Makes a big game play right there. I know we've talked a lot about Lyndon Williams and Trey King and some of these 9AA players, but we haven't talked a lot about Joey Slama. This guy totally ripped it up tonight.
All right, and Bonham is now 10-1 on the season. Do you want to talk about this or not?
Well, you know, I'm wearing my Bonham colors because I'm such a big fan and have been a big fan all season long, Tom.
All right, the Cavs are 10-1, and again, they beat Wolsey Wessington in a double overtime game. In the regular season. It was actually the other way around. Wolsey Wessington beat Bonham 38-36 in double overtime during the regular season. So
in that game, by the way, Bonham got up 22-0 just like they did tonight. So trust me, even though they were up early in the regular season and ended up losing, I think they remembered tonight and put the gas down a little harder as they took out Wolsey Wessington.
All right, Bonham beat the defending champion Gregory in the round before this, and now Bonham knocks off Wolsey Wessington. Congrats to head coach Byron Pudwill and the Cavaliers as they are going to
love Byron Pudwill.
The Dakota Dome. I think it's been a long time since Bonham has been there as well. Going
95, I believe.
1995, I think, is the last time that Bonham.
The old Josh Ronick teams, yep.
Was in there. All right, so it will be Bonham taking on who? Kimball White Lake or Garrettson? And Kimball White Lake.
Tough schedule.
They did play a tough schedule. Lost to Bonham, lost to Gregory, lost to Wolsey Wessington. All those teams in the regular year. Garrettson was undefeated. That is Isaiah Robinson, just a sophomore for Garrettson on the first play of the game. And the Blue Dragons take a 7-0 lead. But Kimball White Lake coming back here with Carter Fredrickson, Jandy, a touchdown run.
We were talking about with Chris Long last week what it's going to be like to have Kimball White Lake on their field. He said it's a fast track. They've got fast players. And they took advantage of that fast track tonight.
Kimball White Lake gets to the lead there. Javen Holland with a touchdown. It's 14-7 Wildcats in the lead. Little defense there coming up from the Blue Dragons. But Garrettson would tie it up on a Brennan Mutter touchdown. Made it 14-14. Kimball White Lake comes back with Javen Holland again. Kimball White Lake goes back in the lead 22-14, and then they start to stretch it out from there. It was tied 14-14, Jandy. And then Kimball White Lake took off from there. Played some defense. Stop on Isaiah Robinson there.
Justin Becker with the tackle, and then
that's Ty Namani.
Yep, Namani takes it all the way.
On the return for Kimball White Lake, 28-14. And then this is Holland to Cody Westendorf, I believe, for a touchdown. Made it 36-14 at the time. So after being tied at 14 all, the Wildcats with a K win it 42-14. And Kimball White Lake is in the championship. They are 8-3 on the season. They played a really tough schedule.
A really tough schedule. They got kind of overlooked. You see, they came in as a 7 seed. I felt like they were a top 4 talent, but for tonight to go out and beat an undefeated team like Garrettson really shows that they belong on the map, and I think they've improved. I mean, they've got the big Bo Donald up front. He's going to SDSU. He gets it done on the offense and defensive line. They've got Carter Fredrickson, who's absolutely tearing it up from the backfield. And then you saw Javen Holland, also a threat at quarterback.
All right, Kimball White Lake, good win over Arlington Lake Preston in the quarterfinal round before this, and they knock off the Blue Dragons.
Undefeated teams.
Tonight, back-to-back really good wins to get the Wildcats into the Dome. Let's hear from Kimball White Lake.
I can't feel any better than what we are right now, you know. It was a tough battle. You know, they came out and scored that first touchdown right away. It made it tough on us.
We're extremely excited. This is the biggest thing for us. I mean, to get redemption from last year we lost Irene, it's just huge for us. The fact that we get to play one of the teams we lost to early in the season just makes it even better.
That was Dale Taylor and Carter Fredrickson, by the way.
Fredrickson had that touchdown early for Kimball White Lake. And as he said, they lost to Gregory, they lost to Bonham, they lost to Wolsey Wessington, the powerhouses in this 9AA class. And now they get to go back to the Dome, and Kimball White Lake takes on Bonham in the 9AA championship.
It's 2 weeks in a row that Kimball White Lake has knocked off an undefeated team. That's asking a lot, and they pulled it off.
All right, that'll be the second game on Thursday. The playoffs will get started the championships will get started on Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. This will be the 1 o'clock game on Thursday between Bonham and Kimball White Lake in 9AA. 9A, we are getting some highlights, we believe, from Howard and Britton Heckler. But here's the final, Jandy. It's 12-8. This was the score at halftime. There was no scoring in the second half of this game. Zach Party with a touchdown. As you see there in the second quarter was the difference for Howard, and they are going to the Dakota Dome.
You know what? These two defenses have really stepped it up. Britton Heckler all season long has really made their game on that. But Howard in the last 2 weeks now have really played unbelievable defense, and this is a team that gave up, 59 points or something to Irene Wakanda just a couple weeks ago, and they rededicated themselves to defense, and boy, it's worked. I know they gave up the yards you see to Stanley Haskins Jr., but to only give up one touchdown, that's huge for the Howard Tigers.
First loss of the season for Britton Heckler, the defending champions in 9A. But Howard is going to the championship, and another familiar name is going to join him there. Canastota Freeman beat Timberlake tonight, 44-20. Canastota Freeman goes in at 10-1. This was the first loss of the year for Timberlake. They'd been averaging 53 points a game until tonight.
Yeah, they got off to a good start too. 6 points right away. Canastota was a little slow coming out, but the running game with Bailey Sage, Trey Ortman, Austin Thu, they got warmed up, and Panthers, not enough tackling going on tonight.
All right, Canastota Freeman and Howard in the 9A championship. That'll be the early game, the 10 o'clock game, to get things started on Thursday next week. And in 9B, Jandy, Colomb taking on Wall tonight off of the web feed here, and Jackson Kinzer is a beast for Colomb.
He is. He's the guy that runs for 1,000 yards, can pass for 1,000 yards. Just a dynamic player. Maybe the player of the year in 9B. We'll find out if Nick Whitler maybe is that guy. But Wall, give them credit. They had a good season. Undefeated up until now. Got further than they ever have. And they put up a point against Colomb. Colomb had won all their games this year by at least 40 points.
A touchdown there from Tack. Tynes, I think, is who that was for Wall. And then Kinzer on another touchdown run for the Cowboys. And they finish it off with a bunch of scores tonight. 74-28 is the final in this one. Jason and the Cowboys are 11-0 as they go in to the 9B state championship.
They're so good. They did it 2 years ago and now have done it with the new coaching staff. And a lot of these guys who were sophomores are now seniors, and they're ready to put another championship on the shelf. They have put some major points on the board this year.
Colomb had 58 in the quarterfinal round, 74 tonight, and we'll see what they can do in the final. And they will take on Sully Buttes. Sully Buttes over Faulkton area tonight, 48-14. The final. This game was tied at 14 at halftime as well, and Sully Buttes goes nuts in the second half. They were the runner-up to Coleman Egan last year in 9B, but Sully Buttes undefeated going in, and they'll take on Colomb in the 9B championship.
Yeah, Sully Buttes, they've been a runner-up too often in their minds. They've made it to the Dome several times here over the past few years, but they're looking for a way to complete this trip to Vermilion. I'll tell you what, Nick Whitler, Jet Lamb, Sam Ogle, all these guys for Sully Buttes are ready for a chance to take down Colomb.
All right, before we head up to Jody Norstedt in Fargo and the North Dakota games tonight, I think we've got Yankton and Huron in 11AA. And here we go from that beautiful new field in Yankton. And again, Yankton beat Huron in the regular season, 38-27. And Yankton got out to a lead.
A little fake punt action there.
On a field goal, but Chipper Schillingstead had a nice night for Huron. The touchdown there to put Huron in front 7-3. Ethan Wishon to Michael Drotzman to put Yankton back in the lead 10-7. And they kept going back and forth. They literally traded scores all night, going back and forth in this game. Drotzman again there with a score. That put Yankton in the lead 23-21. And then Schillingstead had a late touchdown, though, after a Jet McGurr interception. And Huron wins 28-23 tonight. Schillingstead on the ground with 3 touchdowns, as you see there for the Tigers, and they are 6-5 on the season. Yankton finishes up at 6-5 as well, but Huron going back to the Dome for the first time since 1992.
That's probably the story of the night, what Huron did on the Yankton Bucks field, a tough place to win, but Chipper Schillingstead came through big time for Huron, and you're right. The seniors, Schillingstadt and McGurr, lead the team back to the Dome.
Great year for Wishon and Drotzman in Yankton. Kobe Bush, touchdown there you see for the Tigers. So congrats to Michael Schmitz and Huron. All right, one more set of highlights before we leave South Dakota. Sioux Falls Christian taking on Canton. Jandy, Canton at 10-0 on the season. Parker Nelson, big night again, as you would imagine for Sioux Falls Christian, the first touchdown there.
He's had a big night, but he's really gotten better throughout this season, and their quarterback, Dawson Mulder, is another guy who's just gotten better. The more he seems to get carries, the better he is.
Christian got out to a 24-0 lead at halftime. Scott Peterson trying to bring Canton back, though. That is Isaac Dietzenbach with the reception there. Made it 24-14 as Canton was trying to come back, but there's that man again, Parker Nelson. Another touchdown run, and Sioux Falls Christian pulled away, and they win it 38-20. So Christian gets to 9-2, and again, this is the first loss of the season for Canton as the Seahawks finish up at 10-1.
Yeah, so the Chargers earlier this year when they went to Canton didn't have a full team. They were playing without, Mitchell Goodberry. They were playing a little banged up. They feel like Parker Nelson's playing at 100% now, and it showed in this game. He has really been doing a good job.
This is after a couple of close playoff wins for Sioux Falls Christian. They beat Beersford by a touchdown, beat Winter 14-12 last week,
and we're losing
over Canton this week. And let's hear from the Sioux Falls Christian winners after tonight's game.
We've had the toughest trip of anybody, and so we were hoping we were going to use that to our advantage. And we just told our kids, you got to come out right away. You got to put a full game together, because there's been a lot of times where we haven't put full games together, and they did for the most part, and it worked in our favor.
Coach always tells it like it is there. It's Pettingill at Sioux Falls Christian. So the Chargers will be back to defend their championship. It'll be Sioux Falls Christian taking on Bridgewater Emery Ethan in the 11B.
Yeah, I jumped off the bandwagon too quick on them. I mean, I think coming into the year they were the pick, and they proved me wrong. We'll see what I pick next week for you guys.
All right, when we come back, we will get to North Dakota. Bismarck Century taking on West Fargo Cheyenne tonight. Fargo Davies and Bismarck High going at it in the big school semifinals in North Dakota. Jody Norstedt coming up next.
Varsity Sports Live on Midco Sports Network is presented by Avera Orthopedics, Farmers Union Insurance Agency, South Dakota State University, and Farmers Union Insurance.
Welcome back to Varsity Sports Live. Let's get up to West Fargo and the playoffs tonight in North Dakota. Hi, Jody. How are you, man?
What's up, man?
Good. What happened tonight? You had the big schools go tonight. You've got playoffs tomorrow up there, but what was going on tonight?
Yeah, so we had Century going on the road to take on Cheyenne, Bismarck hosting Davies. And keep in mind, we had no surprises last week. It went chalk across the board. Bismarck blanked North and still looks like the best team. Davies and Century won handily, but Cheyenne struggled a bit, if you remember. The Mustangs only beat Legacy by 7 points. So I think a lot of Cheyenne fans came away a little nervous with how the Mustangs performed last week. Did they get the stinker performance out of the way, or would we see it linger into tonight's matchup with Century, a team the Mustangs lost to in overtime way back in the season opener? Let's check out the highlights. One thing I was keeping an eye on, Cheyenne has the most rushing yards in the state, but remember, Century held them to just 36 yards on the ground in the season opener. Opening drive for Century, and when you have a quarterback that can do this, you have a huge advantage. Just like Mike Vick in his prime, 5 players in Class 3A have rushed for more than 10 touchdowns. Cade Feeney is one of them, and the only quarterback among those 5. The Mustangs moved the ball in their opening drive. Hunter Hoffner on the carry. Big rugby scrum, no whistle. The fans think it's going to be a first down here by Hoffner. But wait, the Patriots have the ball underneath the pile. They get it. Missed opportunity for Cheyenne, but the Mustangs eventually tie it up in the second quarter. Parker Sander with a rushing touchdown of his own just inside the pylon to make it 7-all. It turns into a boxing matchup. Century punches right back. Feeney with a bullet pass to Trayton Mattern. Sheds a tackler for the 25-yard score. Visitors take the lead, but the home team scores just before the half. Watch this play closely. Sander, bootleg, Terhark, touchdown. Game tied at 14 at half. Cheyenne gets the ball to start the second half and scores. Sander, bootleg, Terhark, touchdown. Deja vu. And the Mustangs have their first lead, 20-14. Same play, Terhark with 7 catches for 96 yards and 2 scores. Crazy sequence here though. Feeney gets hurt, has to leave the game for at least one play. On that play, Mason Peterson throws it to Skylar Reedinger in stride down to the 2. Grant Anderson scores one play later for a 21-20 lead. First play of the next possession. Cheyenne tries some trickery, but Halloween is over. Nathan Goldaddy's halfback pass is intercepted by Caden Brennan. The Patriots capitalize. Feeney gonna roll out. He is so good throwing on the run. Noah Skalski, he hits him. 7-yard touchdown. Momentum is starting to tilt big time in favor of the road team. Next possession for Cheyenne, going for it on 4th down near midfield. And the Patriots have been doing this all year. Jacob Schweigert and Tanner Thorsness combined for the sack. That leads to a Century field goal. They're up 11. Mustangs need a couple of scores in a hurry. Caden Jastrom hauls in the pass, but he's stripped by Feeney. What can't he do? That clinches it. Century holds on for the 31-20 win and will have a shot to win a 3rd state title in 4 years.
Yeah, that's a great feeling. Give West Fargo Cheyenne a lot of credit. They're a great football team. We came out in the second half, executed a lot better, and I'm excited for next week. It's a great feeling to be back in the Dome.
Hecker game, they're a great team, and at halftime our senior leadership really took over, and they really got us going, and our coaches let them have the halftime speech, and as you can see, they really got us fired up. Yeah, Terre Haute was giving us the hardest time, I think it was 3 touchdowns or 2, and we had to get help over the top, and we made sure that we got them the second half.
You know, we caught a couple breaks there with the interception in the 3rd quarter, kind of the turning point of the game. And, you know, Mason Peterson comes in and throws the one pass over the top to take us down near the end zone, kind of just changed the momentum. I think that's the one thing. This was really a game of momentum.
So Century is in. Who will the Patriots play? Bismarck and Davies in a rematch from the season opener, just like that other matchup we just showed you. A game the Demons won easily that day, 48-19, and Mark Gibson's team hasn't really been tested since. Could the top-ranked Demons punch their ticket back to the Dakota Bowl and take a swing at their first state title since 2012? Let's go to the Community Bowl. Fargo Davies trying to play the ultimate spoiler role. They won 3 in a row. Davies ball here. Jesse Forknell finds Ty Satter on the outside, shows off some moves, but Bismarck's Matt Trolley is going to strip the ball, and the Demons fall on top of it. Demons football. Trolley has come up with so many big plays this season. 3rd and 23 for the Demons, no problem. Will Mather to Isaiah Olson for the first down. Demons in business. Couple plays later, and it's Olson from a few yards out. His state best 19th rushing touchdown of the season. Demons up 7-0 early. Davies looking to answer. Forknell goes into scramble mode and loses the football, and the Demons, Hunter Edwards scoops it up. And how about a big man touchdown? Can we get it? Look at the wheels. It's hunting season, but he's going to miss the 6-point buck. He's down at the 15-yard line. Nice return, though, Hunter. Demons score anyway. QB sneak. Mather gets through the Eagles standing up, and the Demons go up 14-0. Turnovers, such killers tonight. Eagles driving the ball once again, and once again they turn the ball over. This time Satter gets the handoff, and he's picked off by Trolley. The 3rd turnover already for Davies. Remember, Cheyenne had 4 in its game. Both these Fargo area teams struggling. Can't afford to do that against the top teams in the states. Demons get a field goal up 17-0 at half. Davies breaks up the shutout in the 3rd, though. Forknell, the MSU Mankato commit, to Satter. Boy, he hauled in 9 passes for 108 yards and that touchdown, but they missed the extra point. Demons still up 20-6. Matt Russell in from 9 yards out, pushes the lead back to 21. Davies not giving up, though. Senior Brett Vetter answering the Demons' touchdown. Now the lead is back down to 14. Middle of the 4th quarter, Demons are facing 4th and 5. Could be a huge stop for Davies. Instead, Trolley, the senior. Oh, that's clutch. The Demons convert. This time the Demons facing a 3rd and 17, and they go for the end zone. Mather to Joe Johnner. Boy, he's been reliable. Bismarck leads at 34-13, and that's your final. The Demons move on to the Dakota Bowl. Got to give props to Ty Satter. They lose the game, but Satter finishes leading the EDC in yards, touchdowns, catches. He finishes with 700 receiving yards and 8 scores, and he's just a junior. Colleges will be drooling over him. Mather passes for 321 and a touchdown. Big night for the Demons as they are moving on to the state championship.
Oh my God, it feels amazing. I mean, We thought we had a chance beginning of the year, and we just worked hard for it, and we just went out and grabbed it.
Yeah, they had a big play to start the game, and we popped the ball out of there and then we scored a touchdown off that, and then our defense got us in good field position, which is critical in the playoffs.
We took all the turnovers and converted them into points, and those are huge, and those are things that you got to do. And I thought we did that, and kicking game for us was outstanding tonight, and they got a good kicking game. So, I think the one thing is she's a lot warmer in Fargo, and we're going to enjoy it.
Well, let's take a look at the bracket. Bismarck and Century. It'll be the 4th time that these two teams have met in the state championship game in the last decade. Bismarck won in 2011 and 2012. Century winning in 2016 in those meetings. Demons won the regular season meeting, guys, 36-22. Tom and Jandy, as I go back to you, Will Mather, 267 passing yards in that game. They were able to hit a lot of big plays. Joe Johnner had 187 yards and 2 scores in that game. It's going to be a fun one next week at the Fargo Dome. Bismarck definitely the favorites, but we'll see what happens. Of course, we have a preview of the other games coming up after this.
All right, Jody, we'll get back to you in a little bit. The Class 2A, Class A 9-man semifinals coming up on Saturday in North Dakota. We'll get back to Jody for a preview of those when we come back on Varsity Sports Live. A little more with Jason on the South Dakota stuff as well when we return on Varsity Sports Live here on Midco Sports Network.
So the stage is set for the Dakota Bowl matchup in Class 3A, Bismarck and Bismarck Century. Tomorrow we get to fill out the rest of the Dakota Bowl matchups with great games taking place from New Salem to Langdon and Hillsboro and everywhere in between. To break it down, I had my radio buddies Brad Anderson and Chase Miller come in studio earlier this week. Check it out. Okay, guys, we've been breaking down the bracket the last few weeks. Now we're knocking on the door of semifinals Saturday. Finally, Class 2A, A, and 9-man get going in 2A. Shanley and St. Mary's had the byes last week, so a chance to rest up. How do you see this matchup going down for Shanley against Jamestown? Because the Blue Jays have played the Deacons pretty darn tough the past couple of meetings. It was a 1-point Deacon win in the season opener this year and a 7-point win last year for Shanley. How nervous should the top seed be tomorrow, Chase?
Well, for Jamestown, it's the first time since 1994 that they found themselves in the semifinals. So a little bit of a history. So they haven't been there before, where Shanley, this is like every year they found themselves in the semifinals in Class AA. So this is a team that understands what it takes to get to this round. However, they have lost a couple years ago to Kindred in this round at home. So I would circle that if you were a sophomore or freshman on that team to understand that nothing's given. You have to take it to the bank every time. You have to worry about this team. And they played in 2 very close games back-to-back years in the season opener out in the Buffalo City this past year and also in 2017. This is going to be a very close ball game that goes right to the 4th quarter. So if I'm Shanley, you definitely have to bring your A game to beat the Blue Jays, Jody.
Jamestown looked pretty good against Devils Lake last week. Brad, you've gotten to see Central Cass a handful of times this year. The game against St. Mary's earlier this season, that was ugly. Turnovers, penalties, touchdowns called back on because of flags. It ended up being a 14-7 St. Mary's win that night. Do you think it'll be a low-scoring game again, or if it's clean, is it going to get to the 20s and 30s?
I think it'll be lower scoring because the weather doesn't sound real pleasant for Bismarck. It's going to be 40, it could be rain, could be snow. So I think that will play a factor, and I think the Squirrels, can take some solace in the fact that they played a team very tough despite a handful of mistakes, and I think they can take that with them into Saturday.
Your picks for the championship matchup?
I'm going to go St. Mary's and Shanley. It's going to be another rematch.
Yeah, it's hard not to pick against them. I mean, they've done it so many times, and with the tradition and the experience and the coaching factor, I just think Shanley and St. Mary's, it's probably another rematch.
All right. Well, in Class A, we had some pretty good battles last week. Top seed Langdon Edmore Munich beat Kindred, which spoiled my big upset pick, and Bowman County beat Velva 26-16. Brad, you said Jacob Swyhovic, the quarterback for Bowman County, was your player to watch last week. He still has this Bulldogs team unbeaten, 1 win away now from a trip to the Dakota Bowl for this program.
Yeah, and I thought very impressive, down 16-0 to come back, and there wasn't like any real gaudy numbers. I think he ran maybe for 60, 70 yards, and there wasn't like there was any big video game numbers. They just kind of were able to grind away and come back against a very good team, and I think experience could win out. There's a lot of seniors facing a Langdon team who I think we all agree is probably maybe a year or two ahead of where we thought they'd be.
How about Hillsboro Central Valley? Now 22-0 since moving down to Class A. Milner North Sargent really gave them a scare last week. They were up 1 at the half, but Mark Hastings, your guy, that's who he picked to watch last week. Scored twice in the second half, helped lead them into the semifinals. So the Burros are in there. They're going to be hosting Dickinson Trinity. Caden Kuntz, meanwhile, scored 4 touchdowns for the 3rd straight game last week. Trinity has had back-to-back seasons where they've been ended by the Burros. Does that happen again, Chase? How do they make sure it doesn't happen again?
Yeah, and last season they got shut out, coming across the state, and that's the big thing, I think. In some of these matchups, when you're playing against a team like Hillsborough Central Valley, it's starting early. And, take a page of what Millen or Sargent did. Able to get up on the board early, got to play a little well defensively in the special teams game. Hillsborough Central Valley's got a lot of weapons on offense, especially Oscar Benson, who can rush for over 100 yards and a couple scores in any time. Dickinson Trinity has to get off the bus, just like Bowman County going to Langdon a long trip. Dickinson Trinity has a long trip. The nice thing is they've been here before. They've been in Hillsborough before, the same round last year, so maybe the experience factor can help out the Titans a little bit this year.
And Caden Kuntz did not play in that game last year because of injuries, so the Bison commit will probably play a big factor in that matchup on tomorrow. Quickly, will we have a Dakota Bowl rematch, or are we going to have one of these teams upset, the Cardinals or the Burros?
I'm going to take Bowman County in an upset here. I like teams with seniors this time of year. I like the experience factor, so I'm going to say Bowman County and Hillsborough Central Valley.
Give me the teams that start with B for the mascot. Give me the Bulldogs and the Burros, Jody.
All right, well, let's wrap it up with a 9-man conversation. Guys, Oaks and Thompson had some wild games last week, both winning, kind of nail-biting victories. Who are you more confident in as tomorrow's game comes up?
I'm more confident in Thompson just because they've been here before. 2016 state champs, they made the semifinals. Last year they opened up the playoffs with a win over the Oaks Tornadoes at Thompson. So these two teams know each other very well. Logan Sell is a dynamite player for Oaks, had 3 rushing touchdowns against Napoleon last week. But we said it last week, Rec, Schwabe, Thompson just has so much experience, it's hard not to pick for them.
An embarrassment of riches, which brings me to the next team on the other side, New Salem Glen Ullin. Really a favorite to win the state title from the start, in my opinion. Ray Powers Lake has been a great story, but I think Brock Vial, their running back, has to rush for 200 yards, and they have to force a number of turnovers to just hang with the Holsteins, Brad.
I agree with you there. I just think Hankey and crew, they just look like they're on a mission. Last week they took it to Shiloh. There was a really defensive touchdown that really proved to be a big play in that game, Jody. And they just, to me, look like they're mad that they didn't make it last year, and they're ready to come back.
What do you think? 9-man matchup, Dakota Bowl?
I think Thompson and New Salem. It's hard not to pick against either of those teams.
It would be really fun to see the Outlaws or Oaks make it because those would be 2 great stories going in, and Thompson and New Salem's been there, but same thing, experience plays a big factor, and I'm going to go with Brad, the same 2 teams.
We'll see how those predictions fare. Chase was perfect last week, so listen to him over me and Brad, I guess. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Thanks, Jody.
So that's what the so-called experts have to say. How about the teams themselves? The matchup with Central Cass and St. Mary's could be interesting. As you heard us mention in that discussion, it was a sloppy game the first time around. The Squirrels feel that if they clean up some of those miscues, they might be poised for an upset.
Last time we played St. Mary's, it was a low-scoring game. Our defenses both stepped up. It's probably going to be the exact same thing next game, but
I think we had a lot of mistakes too. They also had a lot of mistakes. They were able to bounce back from their mistakes, and we weren't. We didn't play our greatest offensive game against them, but it's going to be another defensive battle. But we're going to bring it, and they're going to bring it. And it's going to be a good game.
Looking forward to that one. In Class A, we get to see Hillsborough Central Valley and Dickinson Trinity square off for the 3rd year in a row in the playoffs. The Burros won both meetings, including last year's dominant 34-0 victory that sent them to the Fargodome. That's the highlights you're seeing here. And eventually they won the Class A state title. But Titans playmaker Caden Kuntz didn't play in that game, and he's hoping to provide the spark this time around.
Last year we made it to the semis as well, and we got cut short. So this year, we're just looking, to get over the hump and just make it to the state championship.
We got to play tough. We have to get a good game plan. We have to play them tough. They have a lot of athletic guys. They have a good line. They're really well-rounded team, so we're going to have to be ready to go, and the run and the pass and all aspects of the game. So they're really good. They have some good players.
Now, the 9-man game that I think could be close is Thompson hosting Oaks. The Tornadoes are playing with house money right now in the semis for the first time in over 3 decades. Thompson head coach Brady Schwab knows his team ended Oaks' season last year in the playoffs, but he expects a greater test tomorrow afternoon.
They got all the same guys back. They're big, they're physical, they're well-coached football team, and it's going to be a different style of game. But we played that a little bit last week, so hopefully we can match up and get ready to play.
A week from tonight, guys, Dakota Bowl. We'll see what happens.
Thank you, Jody. Central Cass is going to win tomorrow.
He's calling Central Cass.
Write it down.
There you go. The
All
upset.
right. Thanks, Jody. We'll see you next week. All right, before we get out of here, let's go through the South Dakota brackets quick to set up the championship games coming up next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Jandy, Washington, Brandon Valley, and 11 AAA.
It looks like upsets 4 against 3, but I think these are the 2 best teams in the state right now.
In 11 AA, it's going to be Pierre taking on Huron.
The story everybody's going to talk about, the Huron Tigers putting it together at the right time.
All right, in 11A, T area goes in at 10-1, taking on Del Rapids. The surprise team, I guess, it's 7-4.
Yeah, surprise team, I guess. Yeah, definitely. But T playing very well.
All right, that game's 7:30 on Thursday. 11B, 1 o'clock Friday afternoon. Sioux Falls Christian and Bridgewater Emory.
Rematch of the 2017 matchup, so both teams familiar with this part of the schedule.
9-man, 9AA. Bonham is in there taking on Kimball White Lake.
I'm going to keep picking against Bonham. Why not? Why not?
That game's at 1 o'clock on Thursday. This game was at 10 o'clock on Thursday to get things started. In 9A, Canastota Freeman taking on Howard.
Yeah, 2 teams that caught fire at the end of the year. Give them credit.
All right, and the final 9B matchup, Sully Buttes and Cologne. Both these teams are 11-0 going into the
Not often we get to see undefeated teams at the Dome, and both teams are spectacular. I'm really looking forward to 9B.
All right, everything's set in South Dakota. Again, the semifinals in North Dakota in 2A, A, and 9-man on Saturday. We will see you next Friday here on Varsity Sports Live.